to join us this evening. And I want to thank in particular one person who's been sending me enough articles to deplete your local forests, and that's Scott Craddy, who's been indefatigable in all of this. I'm kind of in a funny position because if you can imagine how U.S. history might have been different if in a Lincoln-Douglas debate, Douglas never showed up. But here we are. I mean, I just want to state for the record that I suggested many months ago a debate format because I thought it would be fair to have real back and forth. And in fact, I think that my feelings are shared. I was delighted to see about 2 weeks ago from Brian Carter an op-ed that articulated some interesting arguments for this DDR project. And he said, I do hope that DDR's proposed project at the former Masonite site will be analyzed on the basis of facts and actual dollars and cents rather than on the basis of speculative economic arguments. And I am absolutely at one with this goal, and that's what we're going to focus on in the next half hour. Now, I am going to be a little bit argumentative, not because I think that there is no nuance in what we're talking about, but I did prepare for a debate. So I'm going to give you 5 reasons why we should say no to rezoning this particular site for retail use. My 5 arguments are the following. The first argument is that DDR's best case for this project is still undesirable from any coherent standpoint. And I should say that I go around the country talking about projects like this in many places. Some projects are plausible. Some projects are sort of in the middle, some good, some bad, and some projects are real turkeys. I have to say that this is one of the most turkey projects I have ever seen. And I'm going to try to give you some data tonight to support that position. The second argument I want to make is that DDR's best case is also unlikely. And the more likely results are even less desirable than the undesirable results if they get everything that they think they're going to get. The third argument I want to make is that there is still an even worse case possible that you should be aware of if you go down this path. The fourth argument I want to make is that we're going to talk a lot of economics and numbers, and I hope I don't glaze people over, but numbers do matter. But also values matter. Quality of life matters. Character matters. And you and I and everyone here has as much right to make those decisions as an outside company. And you need to make some serious quality of life judgments about what direction you want your community to go in. The last point I want to make is that at the end of the day, I hope this discussion leads to a fundamental rethinking, top to bottom, of economic development so that this kind of discussion, and frankly, this kind of waste of people's time and energy is not necessary over the next generation. So let's first talk about why the best case is undesirable. And I want to kind of go through a few of the claims made about this project. Brian Carter said the finished project will create more than 700 permanent jobs for workers of all ages and skill level. Now, this is pure speculation. Question, how much can we believe a promise of jobs when there's not a coherent project on the table yet? But we do have some hints, okay? And the hints are where the 700 jobs come from. And when you look then at those hints, that's when you realize that this kind of representation is positively misleading. And it's a little bit like this car here. This car could drive. This car could get me to San Francisco. just as DDR's project will get you some jobs. But it doesn't mean that this car or this project is the absolute best way of getting from here to there, or even a plausible way of getting from here to there. One reason why the 700 job number is so deceptive is that the poorest way to get jobs is through the promotion of non-local businesses like chain stores. And we have ample evidence of this from a dozen studies done in the last 10 years. I want to share just 3 of them. This study over here was done in Austin, Texas 5 years ago by a group called Civic Economics. And they examined the impact of $100 spent at a Borders bookstore versus, this is the Borders here, at $100 spent at a local bookstore. $100 spent at the Borders led to $13 staying in the local economy. $100 spent at the local bookstore led to $45 staying in the local economy. So, roughly speaking, every time you spend your money at the local bookstore instead of the Borders, you get 3 times the income effects, 3 times the wealth effects, 3 times the jobs, and 3 times the tax effects. We're not talking small potatoes of difference here. Why is this? Well, in the case of the Borders, they did not have a high-level management team on the ground. The local bookstore did. The Borders did not use local business services like lawyers and accountants. The local bookstore did. The Borders did not advertise on local TV and radio. The local bookstore did. And the Borders did not have a stream of profits coming into the community. The local bookstore did. You just add those 4 items together, and we're talking 15, 20, 25% of the money that comes into a business coming back out into the community. That is why you get a different multiplier impact with a local business. There's been a bunch of studies that I've been sent, some done by DDR, some done by an independent economics firm. None of them have looked at the multiplier impact. And so they overstate any potential job impact of this project. This is not the only study that shows this. Here's a study from Iowa State about 1.5 years ago. If you build an ethanol plant with no local ownership in Iowa, you get 140 jobs. If you increase the local ownership to 73%, because of the multiplier effect of local ownership, you get more than double the number of jobs in the state. Another study done in San Francisco in May of last year. If you shift 10% of retail spending from chain to local business in San Francisco, the city gains 1,300 jobs and $200 million more of output each year. Or put in a more depressing way, if consumers were to shift from local to chain 10%, you'd lose 1,300 jobs and lose $200 million of output. There is a lot at stake and a lot of difference between what a local business can perform and what a non-local business can perform. So why don't we just get both local and chain? After all, get as many chain stores as you want and get as many local businesses, and yeah, we'll get less jobs from the chain store, but at least we'll get more jobs. And I think that's Brian Carter's argument here. He says Ukiah is a home to Walmart, JCPenney, Mervyn's, and local merchants continue to compete successfully. There is no proof that Target and/or Costco would damage local merchants any more than prior stores did. Now, this is a lovely lawyer-like construction if I've ever seen one. Notice he doesn't admit that there has been destruction